Hi, I'm Joey Rebeschi,
And I am Rhianna Hunt.
and this is On Spec, a new podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Bugonia, this
Yay!
week's new release. I'm joined by a magnificent first guest
Thank
in
you.
Rhianna Hunt. So the impetus for this show is just an outlet to talk about movies, really. I'm a fresh film school graduate. I love watching movies, talking about movies, breaking them down, discussing them. And so, I have free time. I figured why not have a creative outlet to do that, have some guests on each week to talk about the release of the week. And our first guest is Rhianna Hunt, probably the most special guest that we could ever have.
Wow. Why don't you tell our audience why that is?
My amazing girlfriend, Rhianna Hunt, is joining us on the show today for its inaugural episode, which is fitting. We saw Bugonia together
Yes, we
in
did.
theaters. So we've already litigated the film a little bit, but, I've known that I've wanted to start the show for a bit, so I really was like, yo, like, we really, like, let's keep the discussion to a minimum and let's talk about it on the show, when we get to it. So, like, I know your general kind of consensus on the film, but I think, like, this long form discussion will definitely be interesting. A little bit about the show. This really, like, we're not professional critics. Maybe eventually I'll have a guest who's a professional critic, but this show is not coming from a space of professional criticism. So, like, we're not really focused on, like, giving scores or anything. So it'll be more about just general analysis, breakdown, and, like, if you saw the movie, like, come on, like, listen and almost have it feel like a conversation. I think that's kind of the goal of the show. And the name of it, On Spec, like, just doing this out of love. Like, to be transparent, there's kind of no, like, business influence or any type of goal for the show. Just kind of doing this out of love for the medium and passion for it, and just a place to talk about movies with other people. The goal would maybe be, like, eventually make enough money to pay for the next week's ticket for the show. Like, it's self-sustaining in that kind of way. But really, there's just a place to, like, break it down, talk about new releases, talk about award season, just everything around the industry. So yeah, we'll usually start, I guess, with a review, and then get into some of the week's news in the industry, and then wrap it up. But yeah, are you ready for this first episode?
I think I am.
I
Excuse
feel
my
like
voice, I've got a cold. But
you have a
if
cold,
it
yeah.
cuts out, if my voice cuts out, don't mind me.
I feel like as a guest, now that we've introduced the show, I feel like you kind of have to introduce yourself a little.
Yeah, okay. I think that makes sense. As Joey so kindly stated earlier, Joey's my boyfriend, and we actually met in film school. So I'm also a fresh film school graduate. We met in a writing class. Very cute, our sophomore year, and yeah, that a little about me. I'm into the development side of film. I find screenwriting very interesting. I'm also like a writer of other mediums, but in terms of film, I really enjoy the development side. I've done work reading scripts and doing coverage for them, and I just find the process of breaking down a movie into its structure and the way that it's written and those kinds of facets really interesting, especially before it's made, but it's also really interesting to analyze it after it's made and see like how well it was done or how they could have done it better. But not to get into my opinions too soon, but I don't think I have any notes for Bugonia on that front.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think with everything you've said, like that makes you definitely a perfect guest for this show, and specifically for this episode on Bugonia, because I think it is such a script heavy movie
Yeah.
that, not only did we see it together, not only are you my amazing girlfriend, but you're well suited to talk about this film.
Yeah, I feel like I had to state my credentials, like you're a recent film
Yeah,
school grad. I had to throw that out there too. It's not just you talking to your amazing girlfriend who has no interest in movies. We're in this
exactly,
together.
exactly. A shining talent.
Oh, thank you. Very kind, my amazing boyfriend too.
With that, should we talk about Bugonia?
Yeah, I think we should.
This is Joey from the future. Before we get into it, I just want to issue a spoiler warning. We fully talk about everything, so be warned. So, getting into Bugonia, this is Yorgos Lanthimos' third film in 3 years and his fourth consecutive film starring Emma Stone, which makes them a powerful partnership. I feel like we talk so much about like actor director combos, like probably
Mm-hmm.
the most famous being like Scorsese and Robert De Niro, and
Mm-hmm.
like people have often stated Jordan Peele and Daniel Kaluuya as a contender for that in the modern
Beautiful
day.
pairing.
Beautiful pair, but like not necessarily as prolific as
No.
someone like Yorgos and Emma,
Mm-hmm.
um, who like have just kind of since 2023 become this kind of modern duo whose sensibilities like really line up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that it's interesting to think about this film in like that lineage of this almost. I don't want to call them a trilogy, but the three films are definitely like in conversation with each other and contrast with each other. Like Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness, Bugonia all come out in consecutive years with the same star and some overlapping cast. And I think that it's interesting to think about Yorgos's path in this like post-COVID era with these three films, and specifically how in many ways Bugonia is a kind of foil to Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah,
film,
true.
yeah, that film is just so like hopeful and empowering in a way. Definitely, it definitely is off kilter and bleak in ways. But I think it does have like this optimism to it and is about kind of like what it means to be a woman. Like
Yeah.
that film is like so
Tied
so
to
like
womanhood and to expressing your femininity and to all things liberation for women, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then like versus this film, which I think is something a lot more depressing, but they both speak to these very important kind of moments that we're living in and like two separate sides of it that are existing simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And Yorgos himself has said like if he had to describe the three films in a way, like he would say that they're a study of human behavior. I haven't seen Kinds of Kindness. I know you have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know you're not
I'm
the
not kinds of
film's
kindness.
champion.
Yes, it wasn't my favorite. It's definitely my least favorite of the three.
Yeah, but like those Poor Things in Bugonia being the like bookends to it, I think makes it like this very strong moment for
Mm-hmm.
Yorgos. I think we'll probably catch a break um, from that output for a few years, but like this moment, like those two films, like bookending it, is like extremely. I think it's gonna go down in history. I think these are like two incredible kind of films. And then I guess okay, so maybe we should get into like a brief history of Bugonia specifically and how we got to this point of release. Um, so most of like Yorgos's last few films or his whole filmography, I would say, um, it's usually him writing or co-writing with his writing partner, or for like The Favorite and Poor Things, written by acclaimed playwright Tony Kushner, known for like Angels in America. But with Yorgos developing the material and the script from the onset and working closely with Kushner on developing the film. But for this one, it was written by Will Tracy. From online, it's saying like started back in 2020 as a remake to the South Korean film Save the Green Planet, directed by Jang Joon Hwan. And at the time, the intent was for Jang to come back and direct this American remake. And then at the time, too, Astor signed on as a producer. And it seemed like he was the one who brought the material to Will Tracy to develop, like the Save the Green Planet, the original film. He brought that to Will Tracy to develop and was the one who suggested this gender swap for the CEO character, Michelle. And then it seems like sometime between then, like development stalled. And then in 2024, Lanthimos came in as director and, from what he said, very lightly redeveloped the script with Tracy. But, it was pretty much set from how it was. And I think you can definitely feel that. Like, there are unique elements of Will Tracy in here, like known for The Menu, some episodes of Succession. He was editor in chief at The Onion, and I think his sensibility combined with Lanthimos' sensibility like has a very unique outcome. Like, it feels different
Mm-hmm.
than a lot of Yorgos's other work. Um, but yeah, as someone who doesn't really pick up um, just scripts, what do you think drew Yorgos to this script? And like, can you feel that influence of Astor as a producer?
I think definitely. I would say that from the first of all, I haven't read the script version of Bugonia, although I would love to. I think the dialogue is truly like masterfully done. It is so insane and riveting and very present. Um, and I think that can definitely show through from like the comedic elements to it. Definitely give the chief editor in chief at the Onion background. Also, a Succession definitely feels in line with like heaviness that's rooted in like this really um dark humor. I
Yeah,
definitely see elements of that, and the way that Yorgos comes in. Beyond those three movies that we were discussing of his, I've seen Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I will say I feel like all of them have such different um, range. So I feel like
yeah,
it's not something to say that Yorgos is like has one style or has one thing that he's interested in and he's always doing that. There's like overlap in style and themes that resonate throughout, but I feel like each project feels like something new and something different to explore and something new to give the world to think about. Um,
yeah,
so I feel like maybe that's where it comes from, and um, I think like the parallels to Poor Things are definitely there. I think, um, especially with the gender swap, I can definitely see his intrigue, especially because it gives Emma Stone some really
yeah,
really meaty character to chew on and to play with and to kill it, like she
yeah,
always does.
yeah,
But in terms of Astor's influence, that weirdness that he always has, I is definitely there. I feel like I really saw. I don't know. For some reason, Beau is Afraid is coming to mind specifically because there's
yeah,
so many
yeah,
different layers and aspects to that. That I
yeah,
really feel it in Jesse Plemons' character and his his Teddy and Teddy's relationship with Dawn and the entire world of the um what are they called,
Andromedans.
the Andromedans. Yes, I feel like
Yeah,
the Andromedans as a whole is so Aster and Yorgos, especially. We wanted to make a disclaimer earlier that we are going to go fill in on spoilers. So, spoiler
Yeah.
alert.
Spoiler
Um,
alert.
this is
Spoiler
not a
alert.
safe space for spoilers,
Yeah, I'm
but
so sorry. We're diving in. We're fully diving in.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that to say, I feel like when we do eventually get to the world of the Andromedans and get to this other world that Emma Stone is clearly the emperor of, and you find out that Jesse Plemons' character was right the whole time. I feel like
Yeah.
there's so much of Poor Things in the visuals and the energy of that, and also an Aster influence there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that like having watched the film not knowing this, like that this isn't really a Yorgos developed script, I could not really tell. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I agree with what he said that he got the script and it called to him, and that I think that makes complete sense because it's so lined up with his sensibilities, but I do think that Teddy as a protagonist is one of the tells to me for the Aster influence because I think in many
Mm-hmm.
ways he feels more like an Aster character sometimes
Yeah.
than how Yorgos himself would portray that kind of character.
Yeah.
Like I think of this year's Eddington, which will I think undoubtedly come back to later in the conversation, but I think of Joe Cross in that and
Oh
how
yeah.
Aster portrayed him sympathetically, even what you said with Bo, um, from Bo is Afraid. Um,
Bow
like
of titular bow.
the titular
Uh,
Bo. Um, like from Lady Bird with Beanie Feldton. But
I just saw that again. Yes.
yeah, the titular role. It's the titular role. Um, but I think that yeah, I think that you can see a lot of similarities with how Aster approaches sympathy with these really kind of gray protagonists and how we deal with Teddy. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest tells. And then yeah, I think that it's so what you said too with Emma Stone in a role, like this is a complete 180 from Bella Baxter.
Mm-hmm.
Like just this is like the complete opposite of that, and I think that's
Absolutely.
also so much of what makes this movie work because like as an audience we have this preconceived notion of Emma Stone. And
Yeah.
I think that without that context, I don't know if this would hit in the same type of way. Like
That's an interesting thought.
I think that we have this vision of her. So like seeing her in this kind of role, like I think informs the kind of dialogue of is she an alien, is she not an alien?
Yeah.
That I think we'll also get more into. But yeah, I think that's about it with the setup. If you think like if you just want to get into like pure thoughts.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, so what did you think?
I had many thoughts. You were with me.
Yeah,
You saw.
yeah,
I was leaned forward in my seat at times. There were times where I was covering my eyes and just like wanting to crawl out of my skin.
yeah,
But that's the sign of a good movie, in my opinion. I was
yeah.
viscerally invested in this movie,
We
and
were we were radically engaged.
yes,
We were
perfect
radically
word,
engaged. Yeah,
perfect phrase.
yeah,
Um, the main takeaway that I had was that I felt like this was one of the most, if not the most, challenging film I'd seen.
yeah,
Not because of like, not that it was too dense or anything like that, but just because it felt like it was taking the concept of a psychological thriller, which I love.
yeah,
That is a genre that I already love, and it took that sort of dynamic of manipulation between character to character, this sort of like battle for power of like whose reality is going to win out. And it
yeah,
felt like the movie was doing that with me
yeah,
instead of each other. Although that was also happening, but it felt like it almost felt like I was in Challengers.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I was maybe Zendaya, like I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's sort of how I felt with it. And so I kept having these moments of going back and forth. Sorry, I giggled because I'm on FaceTime and my thumbs up made the little bubble
The
pop
bubble
up.
came up. The bubble
Uh-huh.
did pop up.
And
Yeah.
so I giggled a little bit. But but I feel like as the over the course of the movie, I kept going back and forth between, oh, she's definitely not an alien, but oh, well, maybe she is, and then okay, she's definitely not, and then like, but why would she do this, and back and forth until the point of no return, where you find out that she is,
Yeah.
and for a second, we got to that Andromedan world with her, and it's such like a a more quiet moment. It gives you time
Yeah.
to stew, which I
Yeah.
really enjoy. Like they're just having a
Yeah.
conversation, and yes, it's related to the plot, but like it's a very calm and quiet moment, so it gives the audience time to breathe and understand the film in a different way because of how they might have been
Yeah.
thinking about it and how I was thinking about it for sure, which I really
Yeah.
appreciated.
It gives you
But in
time to
that,
think.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, which is so it is great filmmaking. And in that moment to think, I started thinking, like, oh, that feels like not the right ending. Like I didn't want her to be an alien, this, that, whatever. And as it kept going, I had to take a step back and realize that it wasn't that it was a bad filmmaking choice. It was just that they got me. I
Yeah.
really didn't think that she was an alien. I don't know if that is like not the right take, but that's how I felt at that point.
Yeah.
I had accepted that she wasn't an alien. I was happy that she got out of there, even if both of them did some horrible things, Teddy and oh, what is
Michelle.
and
Michelle.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Even if both of them had done some horrible things, I found myself rooting for everyone, but I felt like I was rooting for her, and I think maybe that's my stance as a woman.
Yeah.
Um, and but it really did hit me that I only felt the way that I did because Yorgos and Will Tracy and Ari Aster and all of them, they got me.
Yeah.
Um, and once I realized that, I realized that no, this is a fantastic movie and is fantastically made, and wow.
Yeah. No, I think definitely it seemed like for both of us, the heart of the film was the ways that it was like playing with our sympathy. And
Mm-hmm.
like and through that kind of back and forth, I like what you said with challengers because like it's very much a tennis match, and
Yeah.
we're the ball, like we
Yes.
are the ball,
Precisely.
and like playing with our sympathy like that, like obfuscated the reveal of like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like like they don't make it not work in any of the back and forth. Like it
Yeah.
always could be either of them
Mm-hmm.
until you get to that last moment, and I think that it makes it really tense for the whole movie. Um
Absolutely.
but like that playing with sympathy I think is like very interesting in that Teddy is just like this extremely sad and real protagonist that I feel like is just so based in reality. I think especially when you start the film, like
Mm-hmm.
as he proceeds down this route, um,
You
I think
stray.
you stray
Mm-hmm.
from
You
that
diverge.
sympathy,
Yeah.
but I think you empathize with the position that he's in and
Absolutely.
and how he's got there, um, and like he's lived this life of suffering really, and like a lot of that is at the hands of Michelle
Mm-hmm.
with his mother, even before we get into the meat of the story, but that suffering has led him down these like online rabbit holes, which is just like ripped out of the headlines, and like he's someone that I think I disagree with. I would say I think that they do a nice job of kind of alienating him from any specific political ideology. He has this
Yeah.
nice line that's like I was like alt-right, leftist, everything, and like I'm spat out the other side. Something along those lines. And
Yeah, just
like
really nailing home that he doesn't subscribe to any sort of ideology. He is singular.
yes, he is singular. And I think that's like a testament to the rabbit holes he's down, and like very very real, like in these bubbles online, like your beliefs can be reinforced even if they're not based in truth.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
And I
we've
think
even
that
seen it with like AI psychosis
AI psychosis, yeah,
in recent times. That shit is scary.
yeah, it's very very interesting. Just like not necessarily with any like ideology, but he's just a complete loner. Like
Mm-hmm.
he is lonely, um, except for what I think is a nice transition into Aiden Delbus as Dawn, Teddy's cousin. That's really his only companion. You can, but you can feel the love there between them.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they really are best friends, and you can feel that. But you can feel how Teddy does manipulate him. Like
Absolutely.
he's a tool for Teddy in many ways, but in Teddy's perspective, I think in a lot of ways he is doing this for Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing this to try to get his life back, but Dawn is really all he has. And like in many ways he's trying to like save the world for Dawn, I
Yeah.
think. And so there's like a sweetness in that that I think you understand Teddy in a lot of ways through that. But Dawn serves as like a great way of like showing how like real people are affected by this. Like people's families are affected by their family members going down these holes. I think you can draw a lot of similarities to something like QAnon, and like when people come out of that and like how they make amends with their families. Like um, I think that's very very real and like very based in technology. Again, I think it puts it in the same conversation as Eddington and these two films about technology and where that leads people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
I think something that I noticed defined that really early on was their or Teddy's coercion in a way of uh what's it called? The shot. What's it called?
Oh, they like sterilize themselves.
Yeah, well, it's like a word specifically in terms of like celibacy. What's it called? Like
Oh,
it's not it's the surgery, but it was like
oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah, I can't think of the word.
it's like,
Castration. It's but that's what they were saying. It was
oh,
like a castration
castration.
sort of thing.
Yeah,
So I think something that I recognized early on is like what you were saying. Like Teddy's doing this for Dawn, but it's happening through this line of manipulation that like he has gone down this rabbit hole. These are the things that he believes work,
yeah,
and Dawn has no say in the matter. It's just
yeah,
that Dawn is a lot. Dawn is along for this ride,
yeah,
and something that portrays it really strongly early on is before Michelle even gets kidnapped. Teddy's one of Teddy's final acts that they have to do and make themselves ready for the kidnapping is to uh, medically castrate Dawn.
yeah, yeah,
And he seems a little bit hesitant. He says that he had interest in finding a partner at some point, and Teddy just kind of is like, no, but this is the way it has to be. I already did it, and it comes back up later when Dawn asks Teddy like, I feel different, like I feel a little bit off, like do you feel that too?
he feels
Um,
sad. He says, I
he
feel
feels
sad.
sad. And all Teddy really says is it goes away, and you can tell that he's lying.
Yeah, yeah, he's in a lot of moments he's saying to Don what he knows will calm him down or
Mm-hmm.
ease his anxiety. Um, and so like it definitely is a very like complex relationship between those two characters.
Absolutely.
Um, where you kind of feel both ways about them. And then I mean the movie is very much a trio. It's the two of them and
Mm-hmm.
then Emma Stone as Michelle. And like she's kind of this amalgamation of, you know, Jeff Bezos and a pharmaceutical CEO. Her company is kind of this vague bio company, but they have like shipment fulfillment centers that Teddy works at. He works at, you know, one of the centers, and so it its broadness creates a lot of universality in the sense
Mm-hmm.
of like her position and her company represent a lot of different things in a lot of different ways that she is inflicting pain, I would say.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so, you know, I even think about that scene that we're introduced her in. Extremely strong. She's in diversity training. You know, she's kind of like, I don't know, she's like definitely a portrayal of this like girl boss CEO. And you see
Mm-hmm.
that crack when she's like, she kind of snaps at one of the script writers when she's like,
Mm-hmm.
I've said diversity like 20 times. She's like, doesn't need to be that diverse. And then in HR training, she's going around saying like, feel free to leave at 5, but like if you need to stay till 5:30, then like you should.
Yeah. Like
You know
it's
what
your
I mean?
discernment, but like if you have work to do, then like you just say and do it. But like you can leave at 5 if you want to.
Yes. No, it's and like all of the corporate speak, even in her
Mm-hmm.
negotiations with Teddy, like
Let's have a
let's
dialogue.
let's have a dialogue that like completely snaps him. You know what
Yes.
I mean? And like I think that like sheen of, I don't know, like corporate like
Professionalism.
professionalism is like, I think making her an alien is
Mm.
amazing in that because it's so like inhuman in a way.
Yeah, that's really true. I think that is what snaps Teddy of like even if she wasn't the alien that he thought she was, as she said that she was an alien from other people because her training and her position as a woman in power put her so out of touch with
Yeah.
the average person that she is not thinking like them, she is not acting like them, she is trying to manipulate her way out of this, but she doesn't understand that Teddy especially is truly so much better at her than so much better at manipulation than her, and he is going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and you doubt it though. The film
Mm-hmm.
like you're doubting if he is or isn't. We're not like being telegraphed who's in power, who believes
Mm-hmm.
who at any moment, which I think works really well. But you know, like she's not human in that moment. She's talking about having a dialogue without actually having a dialogue. She's spending all the time talking about it as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like them actually conversing. But I think that actually leads us like pretty well into like the next kind of thing of, you know, I think that the way that this movie plays with sympathy is very tied to the intersectionality of class and gender. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that making her like the CEO a woman as opposed to the original film is an extremely strong choice because I think it really does impact your sympathy. I think that first scene of them kidnapping her is kind of played for laughs, right? They're in Jennifer Aniston masks, and
Mm-hmm.
they're a little goofy, and the fight is kind of goofy, but it's hard to watch. They're tackling her, they inject her, they take her. Um,
Especially when prior to the kidnapping scene, they established that she has all this training in self
yeah,
defense, which is really
yeah,
interesting. They've painted such a portrait in those first few minutes before the kidnapping of like Teddy and Dawn are these like essentially like really weird like loners who only have each other and are like truly just in this bubble of insanity. And on the other side is CEO Michelle, who is doing self defense classes. Self defense classes at home with a personal
Yeah.
trainer, and she is
Yeah.
strong as hell. She's fierce. She's powerful in terms of like her work, because she needs to have that edge, so that as a woman she is taken seriously, she is respected.
Yeah.
And so when she's overtaken much quicker than I anticipated, I will
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
it throws a wrench into this entire portrait that they've set us up with, and that
Yeah.
lays the groundwork for the back and forth of power the entire time.
Yeah. I love that training sequence. She's at in the mansion
Mm-hmm.
with the personal
Mm-hmm.
trainer, intercut with Don and Teddy like training at home like planking.
Mm-hmm.
They're both like preparing for this moment. And I think that's so genius. Um but yeah, they kind of make her out before this moment to be kind of unlikable, but
Mm-hmm.
not and like she's obviously like someone who's done a lot of bad in her position. Like I think we get a sense for that her company has inflicted a lot of harm, but in
Right.
any case it's not pleasant to watch this scene, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Absolutely.
um
You are sort of
yeah.
rooting for her. At least I was. Maybe that's
Yeah.
my position as a woman, but
No, I think
if a woman is getting kidnapped and it's by these two men who are painted out to be like weird,
yeah.
um especially with the direction that they took their quote unquote weirdness, you do find that you are rooting for her even if she's not likable either.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like if I think the scene would play very differently in the whole movie, but obviously this
Mhm.
scene specifically play very differently if that was a man. And I think
Mhm.
that that's a genius choice to kind of place you in the middle in such a way. Like with
Mhm.
what like identity takes priority.
Right.
And then kind of circling back to what we were saying about like them self-castrating, it's
Mhm.
interesting that the two of them are stripped of their sexuality and like they capture her, she's their captor, and then it becomes a sort of non-factor. Like
Yeah.
it almost feels like there's not this charged element in a way.
Yeah, there's no, especially because of the way that they portray Teddy and Dawn, physically, and their interests, and like their true laser focus, at least Teddy's, on this mission. There's no room for a sexuality tense moment to arise, and that's even brought up in a moment with Michelle, where she implies that that may be one of their motives for
Yeah.
holding her captive, is like one for money, which she offers them and they could not care less, and also for this sexual element, to which Teddy very clearly states that they have castrated themselves and that is not on the table. And
Yeah.
she seems very saddened by that, which is how we should all feel, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
um Especially from Don's reaction. He did not want to go through this,
Yeah.
and it clearly weighs on him.
But I think it's an incredible choice for the movie, like kind of
Absolutely.
removing that. But in a way, you're saying something completely different about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. Like even though you're pulling it out, you're saying something by the fact that they forcibly did this to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting. And then, like I do think you have moments like I felt in the dinner scene, like Teddy. I wouldn't describe it as a sexual tension, but he definitely has this admiration for her at the start of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Almost like he realizes that the two of them could be friends. Like,
I think part of that admiration, it feels like in the span of time that you're speaking of, like the dinner scene comes soon after, if not almost directly after, the scene where Teddy uses very
Yeah.
heinous levels
Yeah.
of violence that are very unlike his character for the rest of the film, but he is using this what a shock uh
Yeah.
like a what's it called?
Like shock therapy, kind of?
Yeah,
Like
shock therapy. It's like using shock therapy
he's like frying her
to
brain.
yes, essentially frying her brain
Yeah.
to measure some sort of data that we don't understand, but we gloss over it because he's crazy.
Yeah.
And he continues on so far to the point that Dawn has to jump in and stop it because he knows that it could kill her. But
Yeah.
what we realize after is that Teddy didn't stop it not because of an interest in being cruel, but because
Yeah.
um her data, whatever he was collecting, is so off the charts in reading that she is an alien that it
Yeah.
detects that she is in some way related or in lineage to the Emperor of
Yeah.
Andromedon,
Yeah.
which comes back around in a very interesting sort of feminist like gender
Yeah.
moment at the end when you realize that she's not just uh in relation to the emperor, she is the empress
Yeah. And
of Andromedon. And
Teddy didn't even think
she
it.
knew when she eventually told him the entire history of Andromedon that he would never believe that she was the empress.
Yeah.
He would only believe that she was in lineage too. And
Yeah.
I thought that was another very interesting, subtle
Yeah.
element of gender that was built
I
throughout. But to bring it back to your original point about the dinner scene and that tension and that admiration, I think that comes directly after his realizing that she is probably, to his understanding by his view of the world, related to these aliens that he is so fascinated with, and he feels at that point for the first time like he has a true shot at saving the world.
yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, like, going back to the electrocution scene, like, it feels like, to me, from the perspective of at the time thinking that she's not actually an alien, is
Mm-hmm.
that he makes up that, oh my god, this
Mm-hmm.
reading shows that. And he's like, we're in too deep now. And I'm like, just gonna be like, oh my god, and
Right.
she's related to the emperor. That's how I read it at the
Interesting.
time, is like, he he felt that they were failing. He felt that the tests were failing. And so he
Mm.
was like, I need to escalate it even further because we're in too deep now.
That's so
On
interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
That's how I felt in the moment, was that he was like, okay, I need to keep the charade up with Dawn. She's related to the Emperor, and that the test failed.
Interesting.
But
In the moment, I fully believed that he had come to that conclusion with the data, and
yeah,
I thought that he was crazy. So he was just his data was nothing, but I thought
yeah,
he believed it.
yeah. But I think that just is like a testament to how well the
Mm-hmm.
film does
Mm-hmm.
at like hiding what the truth is. That you
Yeah,
could
absolutely. It's
take those
hidden in
things away
plain
from it.
sight. Yep.
Yeah. But I think this actually brings us well into kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about, was Teddy's use of violence and like how it affects the sympathy for him as the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that, like, there at the start, there's an almost like kooky quality to, like, they're in the car shaving her head, and Don's like, I don't want to cut her scalp with the
Yeah.
razor. Like, there's a sympathy. They're putting the cream on her. They're trying to treat her with sympathy. They put on the suits to address her. They're approaching it with some kind of professional, like, twisted professionalism.
Absolutely.
Um, and when she wakes up, Teddy reads the Geneva Accords to her and cites her rights. Whether she's an alien or not. Like, as an alien, she's not afforded to him. She's not afforded the rights of the Geneva Accords, but um, nonetheless, he's gonna abide by them,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of like, like, I think it's planting the seed that he is eventually going to not follow that. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
get to that electrocution scene, that is just an absolutely brutal scene to watch. I mean, it's not necessarily like specifically graphic, but it's definitely the most, I think, challenging scene of the film. It's
Mm-hmm.
very kind of hard to watch. I think
Absolutely.
whether or not she's an alien, obviously if she is an alien, she's in pain either way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, she's the emperor, but she's in pain in that moment. Um,
Yeah,
and I
she
think,
she comes out of it bleeding and sweating and
yeah, so it still is an ordeal for her. And I think that, that's a very interesting thing to include in a film, especially currently. Like, how can you justify torture to yourself and your
mm-hmm.
beliefs as to what you're doing? Um, but like, even after that moment, there are still moments where you feel sympathy for him, and there's still moments that you hate him, and it, like, somehow from that point on, they're able to take you back and forth even after that moment. They're
Yeah.
able to make you hate her again after that. Like, she convinces him to kill his mom with antifreeze.
Yeah.
Like, they're inflicting this immense pain upon each other. And as an audience member, you don't want to see these things happening to either of them.
No, that was for sure the first moment where I sat up in my seat in the theater and was like, no, like I
Yeah.
know that it was so interesting as well in the moment of the whole conversation of antifreeze that Michelle so easily bought Teddy's trust.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
she at that point he had believed that she was an alien. That at this point he has gotten his own sort of confirmation, but she's still denying it. And
Yeah.
when it serves her, she tells them that she's not, and when it serves her, she tells them that she is. And at that point, she's in a moment of it's serving her to tell them that she is an alien, and so her saying that she has this cure for his mother, who is certainly part of the reason he's doing all of this, he immediately, without hesitation, leaves the house, leaves Dawn behind, leaves her there to go and what he thinks save his mom, and then goes to kill her.
Yes. I mean, he's an idiot. At the
Yes.
at the risk of sounding blunt, he's an idiot. But it's interesting that she convinces him to do something like this just as easily, like, as he's convinced of every other truth in his life.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very interesting parallel. Like, he's a very malleable person,
Yeah.
and even in the face of, this scene is right after Dawn commits suicide, and
Right. He doesn't
I
know it
think
yet, but
he
or
does,
does he?
but he knows it.
Oh yeah.
Dawn's body is in front of him, and he thinks that she just shot Dawn. He doesn't
Right.
know that Dawn committed. So, like, even in the face of that, even in the face of him thinking that she killed Dawn, he goes and does this anyways. And, like, I think that is just, like, completely, like, defining of his character. Like, he is
Yeah.
just so easily convinced of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I guess while we're on the topic, like, the scene with Dawn and, like, his ultimate kind of
Oh,
demise in that moment, one of just the,
heartbreaking.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely, like, just an astounding performance. Like, it's a great
Mm-hmm.
breakout performance, but just completely elicits, like, so much emotion and sympathy. Like, he really does not want to be there, and, like, that was definitely, like, one of the hardest elements of the film. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I picked up on it, like, in that moment a little bit before you. Like,
You did.
I was like, I realize where he was going, and
And then I cried.
yeah, because it was like, I think that's like the turning point of the movie where you kind
Mm-hmm.
of realize like there's no way that this is gonna end well.
No,
Like
absolutely.
there's
That
there's
is,
no
yeah.
happy ending in it for anyone.
Especially because in the same moment that Don is taking his own life, Teddy is outside killing the cop.
Yeah,
And so there are now two dead bodies on property,
yeah,
all at once, unbeknownst to each other.
yeah, yeah. They're both kind of in that same type of moment in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that is also a nice segue. Like right after this, Teddy goes, brings the antifreeze, and that gives Michelle time to get the key from the pocket of Don's body,
Mm-hmm.
and find this room with all of Teddy's research and chopped up
Research
and
is one way to
preserved.
put it. Yeah.
Well, there is research. There's on the walls, there's papers, and there's 3D renderings in Blender of what he believes the ship to look like and a printed version of the ship, and also chopped up body parts.
Yeah,
And
preserved heads, preserved feet and hands, and so
and
many
this
detailed notes.
and this moment feels like completely just out of a horror movie. Like it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, and it's revealed that Teddy is a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And like in this moment, you believe that he's completely crazy, killing all these innocent people, and Michelle was just going to be his next victim.
Mm-hmm. Which, at the same time, I know both of us were thinking, why the fuck is she going in there? Why wouldn't she just leave? She just found her way out. She unlocked herself. She can get out of this house now. There's no one to stop her. And yet she
Yeah.
sees this hidden door, and that is her prerogative, is to
Yeah.
stay and look further into this, which, if you're thinking, like I was, that she is a person and not an alien, that is maybe accurate for stereotypical white people and horror movies, to just do something stupid when they have a clear out. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think it speaks a lot, but there's so much going on that you don't have the moment like you do when she goes up to Andromedon to sit in this moment and ponder why she would do this. You're just thrown into that and into Teddy killing his mom with the antifreeze at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's a time, there's an hourglass running out.
Yeah. And in the moment, it feels like this reveal of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Michelle's a human, Teddy's crazy, he's a serial killer. But I think that we haven't talked about this like
Mm.
following the movie, but I think that there's an interesting angle to it where they have this conversation, like at least some of them are Andromedans,
Yeah.
which is confirmed. And then,
Later, yeah.
like in what way does that position Teddy as a hero for humanity? He's the only one who's really able to stop her. He's the
Right.
only one. He has her in his captivity. If she met the same fate, he killed her. All of humanity probably would have survived. She
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's a
have,
very interesting.
like is he a hero? Like if he had gone through with it, would everyone be alive?
I think what that is definitely a very important conversation to bring up, because it happened directly after these two moments we were just speaking of, and Teddy comes home to yell at Michelle for killing his mom
Yeah.
inadvertently, even though it was his fault, and she is there powerful.
Yeah.
She is there
Yeah.
and she is standing and she is showing up with authority, even though neither of them are tied down, neither of them have anything to hurt each other with. But she, uh, even in his own home, shows up with the authority and is like,
Yeah.
no, like, I mean, I could never do Emma Stone's acting justice, but so I won't even try. But she goes on this whole monologue of the history of Andromedon and what he got right and what he got wrong, and At this point, I'm thinking she's a genius because she's made all this shit up on the fly, so I'm not paying attention to all the specifics. Um,
Yeah.
Even though it makes much more sense in hindsight that this is just her life.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the questions she asked, like you mentioned, is how many of them were actually Andromedons, and he says two. Um,
Yeah. I think
and
out of the
that
7.
oh, seven. Okay.
I
I
know
really
2
said
out
that
of
with
the
my whole
7.
chest. Oh,
No,
okay, okay,
2
okay.
out of the 7, I think.
Perfect. Okay, I got it right. I said it with my whole chest
Yes.
and I was
You
right.
remembered it. You
Two
remembered
out of
it.
the 7. Um, and even that one line says so much, which is exactly what
Yeah.
you're saying. But I think something that I find interesting in that point is he didn't come to kidnap her with the intention of hurting her. Like we said
Yeah.
with the Geneva Accords, he didn't intend to hurt her, to kill her, to torture her. He had no interest in doing anything to hurt her. He just wanted to facilitate a conversation on behalf of humanity
Yeah.
because he, from his findings, knew that in a few days there was going to be a way to facilitate that conversation. That's all he wanted from this, was to facilitate a dialogue,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
will.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it never made it to that point, even though it could have.
Yeah. And like her mission is completely stopping that. Like that's why she
Mm-hmm.
stays, investigates this room because she needs to know how to snuff out Teddy.
As the emperor, yes, as the
As the
empress.
emperor, as the empress, she needs to figure out how to stop this one two-man movement that,
Right.
Teddy is championing. But, I think again I kind of touched on this earlier, but like it's interesting that like his goal is to save the world
Mm-hmm.
and he's willing to get to that goal by any means, right? 5 out of 7 of those are regular people who he killed. 2 out of 7 are Andromedans. We don't know necessarily what their guilt or culpability is, but killing, torturing, whatever's necessary to get to that goal to him is worth it. And I think unfortunately that's ripped from reality. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
very real kind of mindset, is that like casualties are worth it for
Yeah.
this innocent casualties are worth it to get to this greater goal. And I think that not only says a lot about the world, but it says a lot about Teddy. Um, and yeah, like I think you can see him as a hero. He's almost this vigilante that's almost gonna save the world. But I have this later in the notes, but I think it might be good to talk about now. Like being right is not a solution.
Mm.
He knew what was wrong, but he didn't do any work to stop it in a meaningful way. And so
Elaborate
like
on that further.
like he's right, right? He knows that she's an alien. He knows
Mm-hmm.
that Andromedans have
Like short
co-
cuticles and whatever
yes, short
else he
cuticles,
picked up
and they're
on,
among
yeah.
us. And they're among us, like the
Mm-hmm.
video game. But but he's not doing anything like to make meaningful change.
Mm.
You
What do you suggest?
I don't know. I'm not the I'm not necessarily like the authority on that, but I would maybe suggest organizing, you know, looking for community. But um yeah, I think that's a very interesting point to make, is
Mm,
that like being right is not always the answer to
right.
to the to the problem. Like he's not his solution is to kidnap an Andromedan and get them to take him to the ship.
Right.
And like I think even if you view him as a hero and as someone, a vigilante who's kind of looking to save the world, he's not doing it in a way that would ever work.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's a very interesting way to characterize him. So I think that the film is definitely focused on the back and forth between Stone and Plemons.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Stavros Halkias
Who
as
Joey
Casey.
I'm gonna out you for this, took his phone out in the middle of the movie to take a picture of him on screen.
If people can do that in the Spider-Man movie, I can do that in Bugonia in our empty theater. Um, but Stav, like, as this cop Casey, brings like an element of brevity when he shows up, just because he's him.
Well, I wouldn't say it's
There's
just
like,
because he's him. I feel like to as a viewer with less digital footprint connection to
yeah,
him, he shows up as a character of brevity in that he is the only one that feels at all like a normal person. We
yeah,
don't get to speak to a lot of people in this world, at least not like at length, and the only three people we're with are this really out of touch CEO alien and Teddy and Don, who have not spoken to people outside of the two of them in many years.
yeah. And I think there is an interesting meta textual element to this too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Teddy and Don are two, maybe not Don, but Teddy at least, they're two kind of chronically online characters.
They feel
And
like,
then
yeah, aliens
our
to
moment of
society,
brevity,
yeah.
aliens to society, but then, this moment of brevity is this personality who I think could be described as a chronically online character. Like he's an actor showing up, like that represents something to people who are online. I think, like that's not to kind of like do a disservice to Stav's career. Like he's
Mm,
blowing up, he's becoming very mainstream. I could see him hosting SNL in the next couple of years.
yeah, true.
As they bring on comedians like someone like Nate Bargatze or Shane Gillis, like I see Stav doing that. So I'm not saying that to tear him down,
Mm-hmm.
but like he comes in and he's this moment of brevity, but he's also a mirror in some ways to um who Don and Teddy are, but like that itself is torn down when you find out that like Casey is this just horrible person. Um
Absolutely.
like it starts off being very light, and then like but there's something really unnerving about all of their interactions until you get to this reveal, and it's
A
just
very understated
it's
reveal, I will say. It's never
yeah.
spoken in so many words that some people might even miss it,
Yeah.
which I find interesting because to our understanding and to the understanding that you gave me while we were watching it, because I was confused, um, Stav's character had molested Teddy as a child as his babysitter, and that's why he keeps saying, like the weird babysitter, like this, that, whatever. And
Yeah.
so at that point, it goes in two directions as an audience because of how understated the moment is. One direction being, the two of us in this moment knew what the specifics, I mean, albeit very vaguely, of what Staub's character had done to Teddy,
Mhm.
and the group of people watching this film that didn't. And so when Teddy brings him outside to the bees, even then I was not under the impression that it would go in the way that it did. And Teddy uses this moment to get Stav's character off his trail by killing him. And
Yeah.
so to the character or to the viewers like us who understand, why he would do this,
Mhm.
it's in conversation with the other murders that we understand he committed, but it feels almost more morally in line. Of course, murder is never morally correct, but if you're going to murder anyone for any reason, being molested as a child, I think is pretty fair on that list.
Yeah.
But because of how subtle the quote unquote reveal is, the other herd of the audience could very well be like, okay, well, maybe he wasn't a great babysitter, but he just went and killed him. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It speaks different things to his character depending on how the audience sees it.
Yeah, I think there's something interesting too in that scene where, it feels like a kind of in a crime movie, like a very kind of almost like typical moment where like the cop shows up and it seems like they kind of figured it all out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's an element of like he's trying to clue Teddy in that he knows, but he's
Right.
gonna keep it secret. Um, and because I mean, like he has all the evidence
Yeah,
basically,
absolutely.
and
He's
so
like,
he
oh,
like
the car has been tracked to this place and has been on this street, and for sure he knows that he's
yeah.
involved.
So I think the last thing that we haven't really touched on too heavily is the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We get back to the office with Don's corpse in the back seat
Right.
and
What Teddy's
Teddy
still
and
wanting to bring Don with him to go speak to the
yes,
Andromedons.
yes. So Teddy and Michelle go into the office and it feels like she's stalling for time with this
Mm-hmm.
calculator
Absolutely.
and he reveals that, he has this bomb strapped to him that, if there's an ambush on the ship or it doesn't go right, he has a detonator for it. And he just, I guess, gets too anxious, gets too like excited, and his body temp gets so hot that it activates the explosives and he blows up prematurely before she can send him up.
Yeah, which is not how I read it at all while we were
Yeah,
watching it. This is
yeah,
only, the conclusion we've been able to come to since the movie has ended, because in the moment
yeah,
I definitely felt like she was stalling for time and this and that, and I didn't understand in the moment that she put him into the closet, why she didn't take something to bar him in. Um and
yeah,
she was, walking back slowly, trying to get out of her office before she clicked the calculator to send him up, and that's when he
yeah,
blows up. Um, but from there, it takes such an interesting direction.
yeah. No, like we learned that the absurd method of this transportation with the calculator in this innocuous office object is true. That's how she has to get up there. And so, obviously he explodes and it's the night of the eclipse. And then she's able to get out of the ambulance and make it in time back to the closet with all the blood everywhere. And then she's reborn in this like matrix like shot of her coming out of
Mm-hmm.
this liquid
It reminded me of
back on
Nope
the
as
ship.
well, of the
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
aliens
Like
in
the.
in
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Like that. Almost like the stomach of the alien in that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on this ship, and she comes to the conclusion with all. This is kind of related to the lore of humans and Andromedans and Earth. She comes to the conclusion that she's gonna wipe the population, and then she drives the stake through the flat Earth kind
Right,
of
of course.
table. Very absurd, very silly, and wipes out the population. And I think on its own, this reveal would be silly. I think if it was just like, and she's an alien, and we're on the ship, it would be very silly. With obviously the calculator, and they have their designs are so based on hair. It's obviously very funny,
Right,
but
very
like
poor
if it just kind of
things.
very poor things. But if this movie just kind of ended on a joke like that, I think the reveal would be very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
But the weight of the decision that she makes, I think, is what pulls it together.
Yes.
It's like the moment is a moment to laugh, but it's a moment of perspective. We're like zooming out and seeing how absurd like an extraterrestrial civilization could be. Like we have no concept of what it would be like. But the decision that she makes is so central to the themes of the movie that we're completely back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a serious kind of ending, and you have this scene where everyone's just dropped dead, and they play where have all the flowers gone, and it's kind of
Yeah.
this beautiful
Mm-hmm.
sequence in a way, but also upsetting. It's upsetting to see some of the visuals, but it's like the meteor hit again. Obviously, like we see the dinosaur bones in the museum, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a reset. Like she's deemed that humanity needs to be reset. I don't know if maybe this is through her experience with Teddy and Dawn that she believes that hope is lost.
Well,
Um,
what I will say to that point is that her decision is made based off of a meeting with her council, in which
yes.
they tell her that, pardon me, I don't remember all of the details of the conversation, but something to the effect of like
Yeah.
there was hope for the humanity in two people, but now the
Yes.
hope is 0%,
Yeah.
almost feeling like the hope was Teddy and Dawn, and now that they're dead, the hope is gone.
Yeah.
They were the only
Yeah.
quote unquote enlightened beings.
Yeah.
And this entire journey and uh, quest to save humanity is what in turn ended it and had this
Yeah.
truly full circle moment. And you're right, the sequence is beautiful and funny and hard to watch because of how long it goes on and how
Yeah.
hard they drive this point home, because it's truly people like dropped dead in the middle of everything that they were doing, from praying to in a museum to in class to having sex, like truly all across the spectrum they show
Yeah.
people drop dead to really drive home the point that not one person made it out of this alive, but the animals did. In some of the
Yes.
shots,
Yeah.
the dogs and the cats and some of the other animals are still walking around, are still licking things, are still sniffing around, to truly show
Yeah.
that just because there is a reset, like you're saying, like another meteor, um, it is just the cycle of life starting over.
Yeah. And the earth is not ours.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not necessarily ours. I think I'm still a bit mixed on the meaning of what you were saying with the two remaining people.
Mm-hmm.
I took it that they were talking about the experiments that had affected Teddy's mom.
Oh,
So I was like, to me, like that's what they were talking about in that scene, but I wasn't fully clear on it. So like I'm still trying to like parse what was going on there, but
right.
I completely agree with you. Like that ending is just the length of it, I think, makes it like such a memorable sequence. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good time to actually bring this up. What does Bugonia mean? What
Oh,
is the
yeah.
what is the title? So it's a Greek word. It's like from Greek mythology. It's a ritual, and the literal definition is progeny from an ox. Um, but kind of what that means is like it refers to this ritual that came from the myth that bees could spontaneously generate from the carcass of an ox cow killed without any blood being spilled, a
Oh,
means of
wow.
sacrifice that generally resulted in prolonged suffering of the animal. So basically, what happened in the film,
Wow.
speaking on like it was a bloodless, painless death
Right.
for humanity, and that the bees could spring from that.
And that there was so much suffering that this had to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Very interesting.
Which I think, you know, with that hindsight, I think that's an amazing title. And
Mm-hmm.
then a quote from the Big Picture podcast, interview with Yorgos Lanthimos. A quote that he said was that one manages to convince you something about the other, in reference to Teddy and Michelle, and then the other convinces you about the other. And then in the end, it felt like the outcome is not as important as the process of being engaged with the characters in that way.
Yeah.
So
Very true.
the act of being in the film and being convinced that one is right and that the other is right is almost more important than the absurd ending to it, which I think ultimately is the most satisfying ending to the film,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that like makes the most sense and challenges you as an audience the most and says the most. But I think the act of watching it and experiencing it is almost more important than where we get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that covers most of the content.
Absolutely.
I think we could talk we talked for almost feature length about the content.
And that is not surprising for us. We will go in circles for
I think
hours with each other.
this is also a movie that, I don't think every episode of this will be like that. I think
No,
this is a movie that
absolutely.
demands that.
Yeah, I think if we were
There's
here
a
talking
lot.
about Black Adam, we would be speaking for a lot less
Yes,
time.
very, very different, very different. But just kind of getting into some of the craft, like Yorgos, amazing director. This
Absolutely.
film is just like it's masterful. Like you watch it and it's cinematic and it's intentional and it's beautiful. Something that we talked about, like indoors, such still camera movement,
Mm-hmm.
like just like really locked off shots with like shallow focus. And then outside, it's just super wide with lots of movement. I'm thinking of the shots of Teddy on his bike, like we're
Mm-hmm.
tracking him every time we're outside, like we're moving, and that's very Poor Things. Like I think of the wide angles in that
Mm-hmm.
film, and then this kind of feels like an elevation of that, and then like plus being shot on VistaVision. This is kind of the third in that lineage of modern movies, like The Brutalist, One Battle After Another,
Mm-hmm.
and now this being shot, and the colors are just gorgeous,
Absolutely.
and it has like this extremely distinct look to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just overall like the directing, the cinematography, masterful, amazing. And then the score, which I think is also interesting to comment on, like frequent collaborator, but it's extremely maximalist. Like it
Mm-hmm.
has this melodramatic 50s Hollywood, big brass orchestrated sounding feel, but it's very sparse in its use. Like it'll show up in these moments and be so jarring and blaring, and I think it's just such an interesting choice of how to score the film that I think makes it feel very epic.
Yes,
Like it
absolutely.
feels like a parable because of this score, I think.
I agree, and I think something that like that piece ties it, in my opinion, to Poor Things because of how much of an epic that felt like, with how
Yeah.
just the shots of that movie are unlike anything. And
Yeah.
because of that, and how expansive the world is and how distinct it is, it makes it feel so larger than life and epic. And I think the way that you're describing the music of Bugonia makes it feel similar.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting to contrast it again with Poor Things. Like that score is so plucky. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
a very kind of like quirky, plucky soundscape, and then this is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And I think that the use of score is just really genius.
Mm-hmm.
So, what didn't work? I don't know about you. I know that needless to say, after this conversation, you love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's anything you even want to get into. But for me, I think that the plot with Alicia Silverstone as the mother, like, wasn't necessarily the strongest for me. I think that the black and white flashbacks um kind of confused that narrative a little
I
for me,
agree.
like struggling a bit to follow what was going on there in an already kind of convoluted plot line. I think while they were beautiful sequences, they were a little bit like hard to follow in terms of the plot, and I think ultimately confused me a little in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what was going on there.
I think they definitely felt very Yorgos in style, especially when it
Yeah.
was revealed that Alicia Silverstone's character was floating. I found that to
Yes.
be fascinating. I didn't mind
Yes.
the sequences, but I think they sort of harken to a bigger, like what you're saying, harkens to a bigger note that I have about the film, which is really my only. Um, is just that Teddy and Don speak a lot about how they've lost everyone else, how their family is gone, how they only have each other, but we don't really understand why or who is lost or what this means or when that happened. And it's clear that it isn't just Teddy's mom. that has been lost. It's clear that there's a whole
Yeah.
family missing from the
Yeah.
picture that has left them behind.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that they don't explain that his mother is still alive until much later in the movie, just for them to
Mm-hmm.
kill her off. And I think that, to be fair, there's not much room to explore anything else, but I think it could have been interesting to just give us a little bit more to chew on with, you know,
Yeah.
who and how and where and why, maybe even through Stav's
Yeah.
character, because he would have known more than we do,
Yeah.
and we
He
don't get
speaks about the
into it.
dad.
Right.
He speaks about their father, or Teddy's father,
Mm-hmm.
leaving.
Yeah.
And like he could have been a good window to that, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's such an important part of the story, and that, you know, like that experiment affected assumedly like countless other people, that
Mm-hmm.
like I think having a bit more context as to what was going on there, and like not the misdirection of what was happening, and like Teddy's perception in these scenes, like
Yeah.
I think would have helped me a little with that plot line, but that's like a very minor nitpick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I think another thing that, like, with movies like this, it's very interesting to consider what a second watch would be like. You and I have only seen it the one time in the theaters. But I feel like this would be a lot sadder on rewatch. I
Mm-hmm.
think that what you might lose in suspense, like, would be made up for with a different type of perception. I
Mm-hmm.
think this becomes a very different type of movie. You compared it even to like The Sixth Sense.
I feel like there's definitely similar elements to um, my watching of Bugonia with The Sixth Sense, as they both sort of end in this feeling of um, flipping the world that you had understood, and the understanding that you had come to within what was happening with Bruce Willis being a ghost the entire time, with
Yeah.
the feeling of Michelle being an alien. Um, but I think at the same time, what you're saying is true. I am a chronic movie, TV rewatcher. I will
Yeah.
glean everything I can from all of the media that I love. So I intend
Yeah.
on watching this again, especially because The Sixth Sense is one of my favorite movies of all time as well, and I have seen it many times, and it never doesn't hit, if that makes sense. I feel like I
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
cry. I always get something out of it because this new world gets unlocked when you do know
Yeah.
like the ending, and that's exactly what you're saying, is you go back to the beginning, and with all of this context there's so many hidden pieces
Yeah.
of knowledge and understanding hidden in plain sight, one of which we had spoken about before, of at the dinner conversation. um, you had spoken about how it was Michelle's job to then sit and understand what they do and don't know about her world. And one of
Yeah.
the points that she makes is calling Teddy and Don's actions a movement, to which Teddy clarifies that it is not a movement, it is just the two of them, that they are working by themselves, and that's something crucial for her to know, to understand the scale of what her world, her alien planet, is up against.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I think that while you may have the answer, you're gonna have a lot more context
Mm-hmm.
to the back and forth between them,
Yeah.
and I think that'll really be maintained. I think that the film is designed for that.
Yes.
So I don't doubt that it will hold up. I think we've probably talked now for like an hour and 10 minutes
More
about
than
the
that.
content of the film,
Mm-hmm.
just the content of the film. Um, I think maybe like we get a bit lighter now,
Mm-hmm.
and talk about like, you know, where this film is like in the landscape, in the current landscape. Um, I think it's interesting. This is, to me, feels like the first real Jesse Plemons film.
Interesting.
He's been acting. He was a child actor, I think, or
Mm.
at least started when he was really young. So he's been acting since before 2000. Um, but really got his break, no pun, in Breaking Bad.
Mm.
In the final season of Breaking Bad, where he played a super standout role. And it feels like since then we've kind of been waiting for his moment of ascension. Yeah.
I feel sorry. I raised my hand for those who can't
No,
see us,
you're
which will
so
be
good.
everyone. But to me, and I am part of a smaller minority of people. The first breakout role that I saw him in was I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Well, this predates I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Breaking Bad
That's what I'm saying.
predates
I,
that.
I mean, I didn't see
Okay,
Breaking
okay.
Bad. I'm one of the minority of people on Earth that hasn't seen Breaking
Yeah.
Bad. But my point is, like, I mean, that's a TV show versus like a sort of film
Yeah.
movement. But I feel like that role of his and his portrayal in that cannot be understated in his
Yeah.
filmography, in my opinion. That is
Yeah.
truly insane work.
I completely agree. I think Bugonia though represents him leading a film that feels like a bigger moment.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely had steady work. Like he was in Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master.
Mm.
Obviously, I'm Thinking of Ending Things alongside Jesse Buckley. I would very
Mm-hmm.
much consider
She's
that to be
having a
like her.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like her movie.
Yeah.
And then he's popped up in the last two Scorsese films, The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon, in like smaller roles.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great role in Game Night that like has
Oh.
proven to be this iconic comedy, unsettling role, which it seems like he falls into very well. And then he got nominated for Power of the Dog and supporting, but like that movie didn't feel like it was like a huge moment. Then you have Kinds of Kindness last year, and like again, a small but unsettling and memorable role in Civil War.
Mm.
But this kind of feels like his moment of saying, even if this isn't a box office movie, this is him saying, "Hey, I can lead this kind of movie on this
Mm-hmm.
kind of scale," and I think he does an excellent job.
Absolutely.
Um, I think we can get into Oscars a little bit later, but I think there's a very interesting conversation to be had with Jessie. But turning to Emma Stone, I think her career trajectory is fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, you look at right before the pandemic, like the end of the 2010s, she kind of made a shift from these commercial roles to things like La La Land and her first movie with Yorgos, The Favorite. And then following COVID, we've seen her kind of turn to more strange things after she did Cruella. And like just in the last 3 years, we've gotten Poor Things, The Curse, Kinds of Kindness, and Eddington, and now Bugonia. And then she's taken on a producing role, working with like Julio Torres on Problemista and Phantasmas, working with Jesse Eisenberg on When You Finish Saving the World in a Real Pain. She produced I Saw the TV Glow, and then has produced this Poor Things and the Curse. And I think that it just represents a shift. Like I think her role in this is informed so much by her likability. She's a star. She's like a
Mm-hmm.
true movie star, beloved, and seeing her take on these like what I would describe in a lot of ways as unlikable roles is very, very interesting.
It seems almost like that is the turn that Hollywood is taking in a way, at least for serious actors. It feels like
Yeah,
the serious actors understand that what's hot or what's really going to make them feel satisfied in the work that they're
yeah,
doing is to portray a character that is unlikable and
yeah,
almost convince the audience to like them anyway. I'm thinking about, I
yeah,
mean, not that it's out yet, but if it's a Safdie, I'm sure that that will be the case. Marty Supreme. Timothy
yeah,
Chalamet is sweeping as well, and I think I even saw something about Austin Butler talking about wanting to play more unlikable roles. I could be off
yes,
base on
yeah.
who the
I
actor
think
was,
I
but I
did see
think it was
that.
Austin Butler.
I
But
think I
it
did see
seems
that, yeah.
like this is what everyone that is on the pulse is gravitating
Yeah,
towards, and I think it might even just be a shift in what people want to see, you know? And
Yeah.
and regardless, I think that all of the stars should keep doing it. I'm having a lot of fun watching.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioning Safdie is also an interesting, like, Bring Up the Curse, which is a show that we started watching together. We
I
did
did
not
not
finish
finish
it.
it. I could not. Not to say
I
that it
did
was
not finish
bad,
it.
but a Safdie is hard to watch. End of story.
Yes, I need to come back to that show because I also love Nathan Fielder, but it
Mm-hmm.
does feel like Michelle and Whitney from that show are very much in conversation with each other as these very modern
Oh,
feeling girl
very true.
boss
Yeah.
type characters, and it seems like Emma Stone has this interest in deconstructing that archetype.
Yeah.
Um, to I think critical success. I think people have really resonated with it. And her work as a producer, she's a champion of the weird, I think, is
Yes.
how I would describe
Absolutely.
it.
That's a
Like
beautiful phrase.
she she wants to make weird things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's incredibly exciting and I can't wait to see where she goes next. I think this is another good segue. Um, Obviously, Emma Stone was also in Eddington
Mm-hmm.
as Joe Cross's wife, and I
Mm-hmm.
think again these two characters are almost polar opposites.
Right.
Um, but I think Bugonia, Eddington, and One Battle After Another represent a very interesting moment in Hollywood filmmaking, where it feels like we're stepping into the present moment in a way that we haven't before. I think Bugonia and Eddington both are so much about technology and
Yeah.
phones and how internet culture is having this real effect on the world following COVID. And I think One Battle After Another similarly, like almost like rejects technology.
Yeah,
We're seeing the
absolutely.
ways that Bob and Willa reject technology, but they all feel, very political, very, I want to say post COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Most
very
perfect.
singular in like kind of like these American movies. Like they're very about current American culture.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing how they've all been received, I think is is a very interesting moment. I'm curious to see um how it will continue. Just like none of them have been box office smashes. I think One Battle has done pretty well. The other two not as well, but I think that they're a moment. Like the three of them are a moment in like our modern kind of like film era.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess now this is like kind of a fun, maybe like not as fun conversation. Let's talk about like Oscars.
Okay.
Um, so coming out of festivals, there was like mixed reception to this movie from my perspective. The festival circuit did not really like it, and this movie
Weirdos.
was looking exactly. This movie was looking from the outside in at awards. So like Best Picture, it was sitting at 11
Okay.
in terms of prediction. I'm basing this off of Variety, but just generally, it was like on the outside looking in. Plemons is in an extremely tough race with Best Actor. Same with Emma Stone, but it seemed like she's a favorite for the Academy, in that it seemed pretty guaranteed that she was going to get nominated for this film. But there was a real world in which this film could have been shut out
Yeah.
from how it was looking. But since the release of this film, and I actually just checked this last night, there's a big change in what the consensus and predictions are around how this film is going to do.
Oh.
It's sitting pretty comfortably um, in the top 10 for what's predicted for Best Picture,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is deserved. Both you and I think through this conversation, it's very clear we love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sitting, this kind of the top seven that feel very guaranteed. One Battle, Hamnet, Sinners, Sentimental Value, Marty Supreme, Wicked, For Good, and Avatar Fire and Ash. And then you have another crop of movies that have been battling for those last four spots.
Mm.
Four? Eight, nine,
Eight,
three
10.
spots.
Yeah, three.
Battling for the
Neither,
last
we
three
went to film
spots.
school. We can't do math. Don't worry about it.
We can't do math, yeah. And so it's been shifting around a lot, but it seems like Bugonia has kind of settled into this top 10, with its, you know, actual release, which I think is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Emma Stone, her unshakably, she's probably going to be up for Best Actress.
And
I think
hey, if
that's
she won again, I wouldn't even be mad. Her
I know. I know.
her performance was truly something to behold, but that can be said of every single role that she ever plays. So maybe she'll just win every
Yeah.
Oscar until she dies.
And that again, that one is going to be a tough category too. It seems like to me her, Chase Infinity, the main actress from Sentimental Value. I don't necessarily remember how to pronounce her name, and Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. And then the fifth spot is like a battle between quite a few actresses. Sydney Sweeney, for Christie,
Sorry, excuse
Cynthia
my laugh.
Erivo for Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, and Amanda Seyfried for The Testament of Anne Lee. But it seems like the other four seem pretty locked in, and then Jesse Plemons was definitely on the outside looking in for Best Actor. But since the release of this, and with the kind of mixed critical reception to The Smashing Machine,
Oh yeah.
it seems like Jesse Plemons has taken that fifth spot from The Rock in a very,
Wow.
very competitive year for Best Actor.
That makes me kind of
That
sad for The Rock. He was certainly, in my opinion, the best part of that movie. Although, if this is
Yeah.
just his start in dramatic acting, I portray that one day he will make it,
Yeah.
and it will be with a better script. Anyways, we're not
Yes.
here to talk about the
But-
Smashing Machine.
But that again is an insane year. Timothy Chalamet,
Yeah.
Wagner Moura for The Secret Agent. Now Jesse Plemons, Ethan Hawke for Blue Moon, the new
Oh.
Richard Linklater film.
heard
And
good
then there's
things.
one other actor who I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Sinners?
But I remember on the
One
on the
Battle.
outside looking in. Oh, and Leo. Yeah, of course, Leo. That seems like the five right now. And looking from the outside in are The Rock and Michael B. Jordan. The Rock just fell
Yeah.
out, and Michael B. Jordan has kind of been sitting outside the top five. And Jesse Plemons made his way in with Bugonia releasing Wide, which I mean I think this is a great Jesse Plemons performance. So I'm excited to see the rest of the people we haven't seen in the Oscars. But you know, I could see this getting a screenplay nom. I think it probably
For
deserves it in the
sure.
adapted category. Will
Yes.
Tracy did an amazing job.
Absolutely.
And Yorgos is a favorite for Best Director. But I don't see him.
He's a fantastic director.
Yes, I don't see him making it into the five this year.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I just think there's such tight competition there. But I think that's a pretty good, like, Oscars haul, if you would.
Oscar
For this
Hall.
film, I think it could Oscar haul. I think it could get some more technical awards too, but I think those are harder to predict this far out. But yeah, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay is
Unlocked.
nothing to scoff at. Nothing to scoff at.
Absolutely.
Well, I know we've been talking forever, but do you want to just quickly run through some of the news stories from last week?
Yeah, for sure. Hit me.
Okay, so this is the worst Halloween box office in 31 years. You know, it's not great. I think it's especially frustrating in this moment where horror feels to be the
leading the
genre.
front man of Hollywood, at least as a screenwriter. I know that what I'm being told from quote unquote the inside, at the bottom of the totem pole is like horror is what's selling. And but clearly
horror,
not.
Yeah. Well, but what I think the frustration, so horror I think is the current like superhero film. I think if horror is occupying the space that superhero films occupied in the 2010s as like this kind of box office leader. But what's frustrating is that you see so many horror movies dumped in like January and March.
Yeah, very true.
And we really didn't have a super strong output of horror this October. The blockbusters that hit were Tron Ares, which was obviously a massive disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and then you have Black Phone 2, which is doing okay, but it's not necessarily like on the level of something like Sinners, which I think would have
Right.
been probably an amazing October film. Weapons was obviously another horror hit this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then obviously Halloween weekend we have Regretting You, which you
Mm-hmm.
know I don't think is great programming. Um,
No, definitely not. I mean, Colleen Hoover is scary. I will say that. So at least there's that on theme.
yeah,
I will say
yeah,
I
and
saw it,
so
so I
yeah,
can say that.
yeah. Okay, do you think it's a good Halloween flick?
No, no, that's not actually the point that I was getting at. But
But it seems like this is a result of Warner pulling Mortal Kombat 2, which was supposed
mm,
to come out this last week of October. In September, they moved it to May. And that's just like not enough time for another big film to come in there. And then I think that just left October without a hitter for this last weekend.
yeah,
And I think I would kind of chop it up to that. I think it's been a pretty good year for box office. I think we've had better years, but I think it's
we
decent.
we
We
as if we are getting any movies out
we
there.
we as a
We
society,
as a society of film lovers,
we
we're on the
we as
board.
film lovers, we as film lovers have had better years.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I think a lot of people are worried, but I think we're seeing a new type of hit emerge. Um, with something like Sinners, something like Weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm interested to see where it goes, and I hope that October is more smartly programmed because this should be an event. Like October should be an
Agree.
absolute event. I think of what kicked off October right back before COVID was Joker, which I have my feelings about, but Joker and then the year before that Venom both did extremely well in October, and kind of changed it from a slump month to something that seemed like if you programmed it with something kind of scary, it could make like $1 billion. So hopefully we see that improved. I think that's a good transition into this Mason Thames story,
Right?
who I guess is the heir to Hollywood, is what everyone is saying.
That is a fantastically put sentence.
All this discussion over like no actor has had 3 movies open at number one since Jim Carrey,
In the
back in the
90s, yeah.
90s, and that Mason was gonna have How to Train Your Dragon, Black Phone 2, and if Regretting You opened at number one, he would also be part of that lineage. Regretting You did not open at number one. It came second to Chainsaw Man, which is an anime film.
However, all the media outlets are reporting as if he did, and that's been a little bit interesting to watch.
It has been interesting because in its second weekend it went to number one. It didn't open at number one. So that was where that was coming from. I can't speak with full authority, but I'm pretty sure other actors have had 3 movies at number one, if not open at number one. So it's not the same type of prestige, but a lot of those headlines I think are being corrected because there was a box office correction made that actually Black Phone 2 outgrossed Regretting You in its second weekend as well. So Regretting You did not
Bro, he beat himself
actually was not number
out.
one. He beat himself out. I think it's also interesting, like How to Train Your Dragon is a remake of this like extremely successful animated film. The Black Phone 2 is a sequel to the original Black Phone film, which was pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then Regretting You is a Colleen Hoover adaptation. So I don't think these movies are necessarily being sold by Mason Thames in the same way Jim Carrey was selling a movie back
Absolutely.
in the 90s.
But he's on his way. He's still freshly 18, so he's got a long way to go.
Yes. And I've seen some very mean headlines about him, and writing about him. I think that he's someone to keep an eye on. But, you got to keep him in check. You got to keep him in check. He'll be back in 2027 with How to Train Your Dragon 2, so I'm sure,
Okay. Maybe by then
we'll definitely be
he
seeing
will
more.
beat the He will do it. He'll
Yeah,
do it that year. Three for
maybe he'll do it
three.
that year. 3 for 3. Okay, I guess. Okay, moving on. Um, something there's obviously a ton of movies that are in pre-prod, whatever stories that come out, but something I just picked out I thought was interesting was That Time We Met, new film with Ella Purnell and Pete Davidson from the director of Theater Camp, Nick Lieberman, is looking for buyers next week. And I think it sounds pretty interesting. I think it's an interesting package. I'm someone who really loved Theater Camp. I'm interested in seeing Nick Lieberman's next film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the plot, the logline sounds pretty good. It follows a new couple that discovers their unborn child is destined to save the future of humanity. The only problem is they've just had their first date and now they hate each other. I think it feels like a classic rom com.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
it'll bring rom-coms back from the dead. They're saying that with every new rom-com, this is the one
they're
that's
saying
saving
it.
rom-coms. So maybe that one
Yes,
really will.
yes. It's got some sci-fi, but I think what excites me is Nick Lieberman as a director,
Mm-hmm.
and I think what also stands out is Pete Davidson as the
Yeah.
lead in a rom com. The only other Pete Davidson movie I can think of is The King of Staten Island, which I think was
He's
a
been in
modest
others,
success. I
but not
think
as a lead.
that's yes. This is kind of like feels like his first big lead movie.
Mm-hmm.
King of Staten Island was like definitely a cultural moment, a modest success, but it came out I think in 2021 before theaters really came back. I think it came out on
On
video on
streaming,
demand.
yeah.
So like I'm interested to see what he could do on at the box office
Yeah, without all his tattoos, maybe he really is
without
leading man material.
yeah, but we've seen him take a break. Like he has not really been around the
Absolutely,
last couple of years. So I think this will definitely be interesting. And Ella Purnell, obviously, Yellow Jackets, star of Fallout, extremely successful, so I've heard. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. And then the last kind of story I pulled is Wicked for Good is tracking to open at 115 to 120. I would take this with a grain of salt.
yeah.
These
Mm-hmm.
days, tracking for opening weekend is hit or miss in terms of what the predictions are, but this would put it behind Minecraft and Lilo and Stitch, but right around Superman and Fantastic Four. I think it makes sense. The first film was at 112, so 120 domestic makes I think a good amount of sense. I think there was a moment it felt like this could have opened higher, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not feeling a ton of excitement for Wicked for Good right now. I don't know about you.
No, when does it come out this month?
It comes out in 2 weeks,
Yeah, then I would
maybe three
certainly
weeks, maybe
agree.
three
I
weeks.
think there was such a cultural moment with Wicked last year. And I remember
Yeah,
going, I remember enjoying it with my mom, and I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, and I'd never seen Wicked. I mean, I've seen The Wizard of Oz, but um I still enjoyed it, I was excited to see this
yeah,
movie, and I'll definitely get my ass in the seat, but I
yeah,
definitely don't think as a society everyone is chomping at the bit for it. Um,
yeah,
maybe what we need to do is ramp up Ariana Grande's dating life. We're hearing circles of her and Aaron Taylor Johnson,
yeah,
which everyone is kind of loving right now. Can't blame them.
yeah,
I heard
yeah.
something very, very vaguely about her and Evan Peters, which would be truly interesting
Interesting.
given her working on American Horror Story 13, which is another pull.
Yes, another
But
great pull.
I can't fathom that. Although she does love Messi, but her being there with former Scream Queens co-star Emma Roberts, who her and Evan Peters have
Yeah,
their own past is what I'll say. I
yeah,
can't imagine that going on, but maybe.
yeah. I think we're both seeing a lack of press, but also like just a lack of organic excitement.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of thoughts that I'll probably save,
For the Wicked
hopefully, to do a Wicked
episode.
episode.
Yeah.
On like my thoughts on Wicked Part Two. Um, but I think what like we're feeling right now is maybe a bit of fatigue.
Yeah.
Um, the Wicked hype and cultural moment. took us all the way through March
Yeah, it lasted a
because of
long
award
time.
season.
Yeah.
It went from November through March, which was not that long ago, just because like this is a blockbuster, but it also was a strong awards movie. And so I think people might be a bit wicketed out. Um, I think maybe waiting till next year would have been like sitting on it and just building that excitement would have been a good move. But also I think another factor that's maybe simple is that part 2 just doesn't have the songs. Like part
Interesting.
1 has all of the hits. Part 2 just might not have that same excitement. So I think it's a mix of that and maybe a little fatigue. Uh, I could see it exceeding these predictions because the first movie was kind of a surprise hit. And then the second one, I think, I hope it does well. Um, but yeah, excited to see where that goes. Yeah, I think we're in the wrap up now. We're
Mm-hmm.
over 2 hours on the recording, probably a
Mm-hmm.
little under on the actual episode. But what have you been watching? What have you been watching this week?
Well, I'm always watching many, many things at once. As you know,
Yes.
currently in the rotation is Smiling Friends, which we both love.
Wow.
I
Yes.
will say that although I had my qualms about them waiting a week to air the Halloween episode after
They
Halloween,
returned from a break.
uh
They
huh,
returned from a break.
which I found fascinating. I was like, why didn't they just move one of the other episodes into that space? Anyway, not the point. I'm
Yeah.
not the one running it. Um, Watching Smiling Friends, watching the newly debuted, now titled Rachel Sennett Project. I
Yes.
love LA. I am a Josh Hutcherson girly through and through. So I enjoyed it. I've never been to LA, but I'm making my first trip out there this week, so it was very
Hell
perfectly timed
yeah.
for me. And just
Yeah.
running in the background of my life at the moment is my first watch through of the Gilmore Girls. Um,
Yep.
I'm currently in season 3. I've been making my way through it for the fall, like everyone else has done many, many years before me. Um, and I'm enjoying that too, more than I thought I would. What are you watching?
Okay. I'm also watching Smiling Friends. I've started I Love LA
Mm-hmm.
along with many people. I think amazing first episode feels like a classic sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like, but okay, I will say elevated sitcom.
For sure. In the
But I'm like in the
overcompensating
world now,
adults bracket.
yes. But kind of in the world now of like I understand what the dynamic is, and so I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to see how we go like week to week with it. I also finished Adolescence like
Mm-hmm.
6 months too late.
Yep.
I think it's pretty
You're
good.
far behind, but
I think it's pretty good.
yeah.
That's my review of it. Um, Black Bag. I got around to watching Black Bag.
Mm,
Um,
haven't seen
I
it.
would say painfully boring.
Well, I have
Not
nothing to add to
to
that, but it made me giggle.
not to get into it. A House of Dynamite. I also saw, you know, somewhat mixed feelings on it. I'm glad that we started with this week with Bugonia. I think if we started last week with House of Dynamite,
Not as fun.
I would not be a happy camper. I think I would not be so positive.
Well, thank God for
Um,
autonomy.
thank God for autonomy. And then one other thing that we watched together that you forgot is the Love Is Blind season
Oh my
9
God.
reunion.
That we did
Um,
watch.
amazing finish to an amazing season. I'm a defender of season 9. I
It's a
think
crazy
extremely
thing to
entertaining.
say. Yeah, I
Extremely
mean,
entertaining.
entertaining for sure. It's definitely not my favorite season. All the headlines being like it's the least successful season really didn't have me thinking for whatever reason that there would be no couples that got married. Although I think
Yeah.
the idea of the show as a whole is truly like a work of Satan. And that no one should actually go through with this. Obviously, there are some exceptions to the rule. There are some couples there that seem genuinely happy and are still together and thriving. So I'm thankful that they escaped. But truly a fascinating finale to a fascinating season.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, as we're wrapping up, things that are opening this week. Just a few that I think I'm focused on. Like, there's a lot of smaller releases, but what's exciting me, we're getting Predator Badlands releasing wide. And then Die My Love with a limited opening.
Very excited.
Very excited. I think, okay, in defense of Predator Badlands, the previous movie, Prey, was directed by the same director, critically beloved, and this one looks pretty good. It's tying an Alien. I've heard good things about the quality of it. I don't necessarily feel great about its box office with the current landscape we're in, but if it's near you, I would implore you to check it out. That's my recommendation to the audience.
But you should.
I don't know if I will. I don't know if I will.
You're imploring people to go see a movie that you probably won't go see.
If I have time, and if I want to cover it on the I'll get into my dilemma. But I'd implore people to go see this. If it's in theaters near you, you don't have Die My Love, you're caught up on movies, check out Predator Badlands, because I think it'll be a pleasant surprise. And then Die My Love is kind of close to me. I think I'm going to try to see it to talk about next week. I might see both it and Predator Badlands.
Wow. Gotta get back on that
but
AMC
if I'm not,
list.
I know. It's only at AMC near me, which is, a decent drive. But if I'm not able to see Die My Love, I will go see Predator Badlands. Okay. But in a perfect world, I see both and talk about both next week on the show. And then also, Nia DaCosta's new film, Hedda, just came out on Prime Video this past, I think it was Friday. I'm going to try to check that out, maybe cover it next week loosely, but I'm excited for that, starring Tessa Thompson. So those are kind of the three films on my mind right now: Badlands, Die My Love, and Hedda. And so I'm excited to talk next week about how they do and everything. But with that, I think we've reached the end. This is an extremely long inaugural episode to the show. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your conversation, your input, your perspective.
Of course. Anytime. We would do this like for fun, so might as well.
Absolutely. Yes. I could not think of a better first guest. Oh, you did a great job. You are like fantastic. You were the perfect guest for Bugonia.
Thank you very much.
To get into the script. It's such a character and script heavy movie. You were excellent. I'm like, it's so funny to do this with you, just because like this is such like a professional like conversation and professional environment. I feel like people are gonna listen and be like, they have such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like,
I think what they're going to get from it is us being able to tap into our shared interest, essentially. We met in film school. That is something that we both love very deeply and connect on very deeply. And so we're, before this podcast, we're sitting and having all of these conversations, probably for less time and with more random side tangents. But we're still having these conversations in our free time anyway, just because we find it fascinating. And this is a little bit more professional than we usually are sitting down to talk, but it's good for our brains. I think we enjoy the intellectual stimulation a lot.
I agree. They're going to think we're like always like deep in like pretentious discourse. I hope that this conversation, this episode, hasn't been too pretentious. If you're getting to the end, you're kind of getting like this insight, like inside baseball.
Thank you for being here.
Of like our thoughts. Like, I don't know if anyone will even hear this, but amazing conversations.
And I will just say, one, thank you for having me. I'm sure I will be back, which will be very fun.
Yes, so the second chair is always open for you.
Oh, thank you. But I will say, more importantly, congratulations on starting your podcast. You are a wonderful host,
Thank
and I am
you.
excited to see where On Spec goes, and I'm excited to be back later.
Thank you so much. Hopefully we're back next week. I'll try to do it weekly, but I don't want to commit to it, but I'll try to do it weekly.
I'll keep him in check, don't worry.
Well, I'm like I can't promise. I can't make any promises. But thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, I hope that this was enjoyable, not too pretentious, but you gained something from it. So
Yes,
yeah,
that is the hope.
thank you so much. Thank you to Rhianna for being here, and yeah, go see
Go see
Treasure
more
Badlands and
movies.
Down My Love.
Yeah.
Go see more movies.